Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast.
We're all set up here down this creek bottom. Bean Buck's been in here a bunch of times, so good chance to see it on him.
Meh. Smoked him. I think he just crashed, bro. Absolute money, dude. It's 76 degrees out. We just set up 80 yards from a buck and killed him at 18 yards.
Here we are. We're set up on this creek that's been absolute fire for the last 8 days. We know a shooter went in here to bed this morning.
Meh.
Smoked his ass tonight.
Get it? That was at 8, dude. That's at 8.
Bucked out October 28th. Homie's up for the rest of November. But absolute incredible season. Both kills on hanging hunts, right on the beds, and just making it happen.
Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast, coming in your ear holes with the recap of the Rutcation podcast series. Big shout out to Exodus for putting this on with me. Big shout out to Chad, Jake, and Cameron over there at Exodus for supporting the show for many, many years. I am releasing this on Wednesday, and I will be releasing my weekly scheduled podcast later today at 11 a.m. Central Time. So if you listen to this in the morning, that Black Friday sale that I've been hitting of, you'll be able to get a lot more details in that regular scheduled episode. But getting into the recap here, I decided to wait a day or two before I recorded another episode, just to reflect on what I had going on, get back to the work, answer a bunch of emails, and I got back to work, figure things out, try to lay stuff out, and then when I got back from that day, catch up on my house stuff, and then record the podcast for you guys. So here it is. But getting back to that, the second to last day there, I went up to Garrett's in the morning and was there. I wanted to sight the muzzleloader in. We shot it out at 200 yards. It was hitting good, real confident in it. I was shooting, and he noticed right away that the scope base that's actually mounted on the gun that came stock on the gun, it was loosening up when I was shooting, so that was the issue I was having. It was fairly loose. He Loctited it for me, and that solved the problem. He taught me a lot of stuff about muzzleloaders that I did not know, so really, really appreciated if Garrett let me go up there and giving me the knowledge. And I knew if I went up there, I would learn a bunch of stuff, become a better shooter, and become a better muzzleloader shooter, because that's something I've never done is muzzleloader hunt, so... but yeah, I'm shooting 200 yards with it. Gun season's this weekend. Feeling really confident with it. But I ended up going hunting this afternoon in the urban. I ended up seeing 4 does and a small buck work the pinch there. The wind was true. I had the stand hung already, so I slipped in there and hunted that. Shooter bucks are still showing up in there. Had one show up today in daylight, of course, back to work. That ended that day. Then the next day, I woke up an hour and 45 minutes early and went into public to hunt PT, and went way back in there. Actually finally got a picture of him, and that's what convinced me to go in there. And then hunted in the spot that I knew that he would work through from past, from previous history, and hunted there all the way till 1:30. Wind started switching. Some does winded me, and I got out of there. But it took me an hour and 45 minutes to get in there, get set up, hang the stand. It's just a really, really hard trek to get in there. And wouldn't you know it, I got a daylight picture of him there at 10 o'clock this morning, exactly where I would set up before. So go back to work. He comes through there daylight. That's just part of the game, I guess. But I ended up hunting in there, was pretty proud of myself for getting in there, picking a stand, and hanging in an area that I thought he was going to use, and then the next day him being there. So I was there 20 hours before he was there. Hunting for him, so that was pretty cool. I know you didn't seal the deal, but pretty dang close to a legendary deer, and he was in that area, using that area in daylight, just like I thought he would be. He's actually the only deer on that cam today, and that's how that that's how that deer has always been. He's never been with other bucks. He's never been with other bucks in the summer. He's been a loner deer. There's very few deer in that area. I end up seeing a basket 8 come in that morning, and those 2 does at 1:30 winded me on that opposite ridge because that's a morning spot only. You have to play the thermals or have a very strong wind. And it wasn't a strong wind. I played the thermals in the morning and got away with murder back there. But then, when that sun got up, it got warm, got up to 40. I didn't have that thermal rise like I should have, and those does winded me. So definitely something to think about when I'm going back to that spot. I will be back in there hunting that deer and see if I can seal the deal on him. But he's a traveler, not on that property a lot. So hopefully gun season holds him in there and he could survive and I can get another whack shot at him. But I'm just going over the whole entire Rutcation. First off, I just want to say a huge shout out to all the people that messaged me and said keep grinding or keep trying, keep out there sending it. I think it was the second or third day I started this. I hit the limb on JoJo, the mid 150s with the drop tine, and that kind of set the course for the series of. I hunted 136 stand hours total in stand in daylight over 17 days. I took 1 day and did not hunt. That was a 75-degree day when my kids had the ear infections. But that was the 1 day I did not hunt. Every other day I hunted. I did 5 all-day sits in that time period. And I don't know how many shooter deer I've seen. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shooter bucks during that time frame. 3 that were just needed 10 yards. 1 I needed 3 steps, full draw on. Had 1 come through 10 minutes before shooting light that was probably in the 60s. That's Big Sean, big giant 10 with giant brows. Like I said, I hit the limb on JoJo. I had the buck on the pheasant ground that was chasing the doe early in the game on that public. I went to the park pinch and had 2 shooter bucks the same days. And then I encountered Frank, passed a really solid 8-pointer, and then passed a smaller 8-pointer, passed that 3-year-old 9 multiple times. I was plagued with decent weather at the beginning. Then during the about 8-day stretch there, it was very, very hot. Hardly any deer encounters. But once it got cold, man, I seen so many deer. I seen 7 bucks one day, multiple does, close encounter after close encounter. And then, like I said, I went in there to hunt PT off a picture that he showed back up, and then I'm in there a day late and $1 short. He shows up the next morning right where I was at, 15 yards. But I'm really proud of the effort that I put in hunting those 2 weeks. I'm proud of my wife for taking care of the kids and getting them to daycare and picking them up from daycare while I was out there hunting. Big shout out to her. Big shout out to my mother-in-law for watching the kids a couple nights so I could go hunt. They understand how much I love this game. But man, it's a tough game we play. I've had multiple buddies that have shot bucks and not found them. Multiple buddies that have been close to killing deer and not been able to kill. And I've had a lot of buddies that have killed. But it's just I've had buddies that shot deer, lost it, and then shot it a couple days later. Like, it's just a wild game we play. And it's based on minutes of seeing something in hours and hours and hours of nothing. Very, very hard to set out there. One thing I will say was the last 4 years I've been hunting with Homie. As a lot of you guys know, Homie had been on this podcast with me for 4 years. And he I never really talked about it, but he kind of quit cold turkey on me, wanted to start dirt bike racing, spending some more time with his family, didn't want to do the podcast thing anymore. So he decided to quit, but he also decided to focus on dirt bike racing way more than hunting. So I had been out there with him for the last 4 years, and we do all day sits with another guy. It's tough, but when you're out there all day by yourself for days and days and days, it is extremely hard to do. But I had a lot of the listeners messaging me, keep going, keep trying to do. Everything can change in a minute, and all those messages, they actually did help me just grind it out there. But I will be, straight up honest with you guys and say that the grind got me this year. I try to take some more days off, evenings or mornings to break it up and just kind of float through the madness of 17 days of hunting. I do have 3 boys and a 5-month-old daughter. My 5-month-old daughter was waking up 2 or 3 times a night to eat. I was getting up and feeding her, so there was just low sleep. I hung my stand set up 18 times, 18 different spots during those 17 days. Bounced around 4 different properties, public or 5 different properties, public and private, urban. Just trying to hunt a couple times here and then give it a break, and then go over here and give it a break and go hunt another buck. I had target deer on all of them. More than likely, I should have just hung out at the urban place because that's where I had the most action. But you set 2 or 3 days in the same spot, you're ready for some different scenery and chase a different deer. But that's where I had the most action. My king piece, I'd never seen a shooter on it, and never had a shooter on cam the whole entire rut. That place is Chips and Dip is not there since October, and I haven't had a shooter on that since, and that's normally been very good for me. The corn just come out. There's probably 200 or 300 acres of corn, and I know that had an effect on me where the deer weren't utilizing the pinch. And then also my neighbors keep killing a ton of does every year, and I just keep losing does and does and does, 3 to 4 or 5 a year, and the population can't keep up, so I'm only holding 1 or 2 does on that property, and I would go out there and wouldn't see a doe, even on the food plots, which is just mind-blowing to me. But when you kill them off like that, it takes a while for them to come back, so hopefully the neighbor doesn't kill as many does this year during shotgun and kind of gives it a break. If not, that place will be tried. I mean, it could be vacant of deer very, very soon. Not much I can do about it. But the urban piece was very good. I tried to contact the neighbor multiple times to access his little piece of property there, and that's where most of these deer were pinching through. And I could just watch them, 150 yards away, and try to call them over. And that was effective, but then they'd come to 50 yards, 60 yards, and lock up in the brush and not want to close the gap. So that boogered me up quite a bit. I did have one shooter work the pinch perfect behind an oak tree, and he did 2 steps. I rattled him in, and he worked out to hit a scrape out on this old field edge, or it's old food plot edge, where they logged some trees in there, and then previous owner put a little food plot. It's all grown up in tall grass and briars and stuff now. But he went out there and hit a scrape about 70 yards behind the high stem count cover, and then worked over to the edge looking off into this ravine. I think when I was rattling, it was echoing in that ravine, and the bucks were thinking that they were down there. But a lot of the deer would come in and try to scent check me, try to wind me. They go right to that wind edge of that wind cone and stand in it, and I think I lucked out because my wind was blowing out into the subdivision a lot, and they didn't want to break that gap of the cover to get out there in the open. So, but that was tough. Nothing on Kings was very surprising to me. 3 mobiles on it, pulled a couple red cams, hunted it 4 or 5 times. Never seen a shooter. There's a 3-year-old in there I seen multiple times. There's a big 6-pointer in there I seen a couple times. And a half rack buck. They're all on the cams, and I've seen them all past the 3-year-old, I think 3 times out there. Good deer, but just not what I'm looking for. And then the new piece, it's all field. I didn't hunt it a lot. That's where I had the encounter with JoJo early. JoJo was all over the cams. That's why I was in there early. And then he kind of faded off. And those deer, we didn't have cold weather, so they weren't coming to those fields before dark. And it looks like for me about November 5th to 6th, all the scrapes shut down. The bucks weren't checking for does. They were in a doe bedding area where one was about to pop, or they already had a doe in my area. So that 5th, 6th, it pretty much shut down. Before then, I had a lot of bucks, at night on scrapes, sent checking and stuff, and moving throughout the property pretty good. But here, about the last 2 days, it popped open again pretty good, where they were really looking for does. So I've probably been through a couple of those, and it's getting harder to find one now. So with this gun season coming up and the temperatures that we're going to have here, there's going to be a lot of deer that die this weekend. We've been kind of had warmer temperatures during gun season the last few years, and this year we're going to have extremely cold temperatures. It's going to be 8 one morning, so be interesting to see how many deer get killed. The property that I plan on gun hunting, where the wagon blind is, it is a shared property, so there'll be 3 other guys out there gun hunting. So that should be interesting. Hopefully they have good hunts and kill some bucks. And that property I put a lot of stake in it this year, and I think I'm going to kind of keep it as just a burner property next year and focus on some other urban zone stuff that I got and make a plan there. But like I said, a couple episodes ago, it feels like, you do these 17 days hunting and you put all this pressure on yourself to kill, and you almost get it done. I don't know how many times. And you just plug along every day, and you wake up and you say, I got to get out there. It could be the day, and you get set up, and you just go over and over. And then when it's over, you think, well, the season's done. I didn't get it done. Been 7 years. I've killed a buck. And I'm not going to kill a buck this year, but it's only November 15th here. We still got, we're not even halfway through the deer season, yet. So, I still have lots of time to kill some bucks, and it just kind of disheartening. You work all year to hunt that time frame, and I learned a lot this year that I will utilize next year for sure. But during the rut, man, you got to have that past data on property. It's really hard to kill one on property that you've never been on in the rut unless you just get in a pinch point and he comes through. But if you're targeting bucks, it's very hard. So I did have JoJo daylight in a pinch that I knew he was going to daylight, and I was on a different property, daylighted 12-18, going through this pinch, and I knew that was a really good spot for him to daylight eventually. But, I mean, that's the only time he went through there that I know of. So, I mean, you would have hunted there all year for one opportunity, but that's all you need. So just how many times can you hunt an area and not, screw it up? But I got lots of season left, get through gun season here, got a muzzleloader tag. Probably I'd love to kill a buck with a gun and just get a buck down, and then pretty much focus on the public land buck late season there and just grind it out on him is the plan. But we'll see how gun season goes. Muzzleloader, I'm not giving up for sure, but I appreciate you guys tuning in. But all the way through every episode, and like I said, the messages, you guys support me a shitload on this podcast, and I'm happy with my effort. Pretty discouraged that I didn't kill with that much time. And like I said, I learned a lot, learned about myself out there. It's tough. I really had to grind down and put the time in, and the sleep deprivation with the 4 kids and the packing in so many times and going in on public deep, and it was a lot. So I didn't have the people to game plan with where I was going like I normally did. I mean, I straight up, I missed homie out there. It was brutal. But I talked to a buddy of mine, and hunting is supposed to be fun. And about 6 days in, I don't remember a day where I was like, oh, that was fun. Like there wasn't a day where, even when I had close calls, it was disheartening because you're full draw on something and you're like, okay, here's the moment, and it doesn't happen. And you've already hit a limb on a buck, so you're already discouraged, and you're just going through the motions at that point, and you're out there in a haze, and people are saying, well, why are you sitting all day? There's no way you're going to kill one. Like there's guys messaging that you're stupid for sitting all day. It's warm, never going to kill one. And then there's guys that are messaging you and saying, no, you never know when it's going to happen. And then there's guys message you and saying, stop being a bitch, you get out there and kill something. And it's just like, dude, I'm out here. Like I'm trying. I'm putting in just as much work as anybody else. But that's one thing about deer hunting is that you could go out and never walked on a property and walk up to a stand and sit on the ground and kill a giant. Or you could spend 2 years grinding on that property and never kill anything. There's no fairness to hunting. There's no outworking to hunting. It's just putting the time in and waiting for your moment. And when that moment comes, like I had the moment the first Wednesday of the series, you just got to make it happen in that moment. And I said that on here, how many opportunities does a guy have at a shooter buck a season? 1 or 2 or 3, maybe, if he's lucky. More than likely 1. And I had a shitload, but just couldn't get it done. I mean, I had a ton of shooters that were right there. I had the grade 8 with my boys out in the field at 69 yards broadside and grunted them over and just would not commit. So decided not to take that shot. Alert deer, that's way too far. But I grinded it out, man. I did my best, and like I said, season's not over, so I'm going to keep pounding her out. And it felt good to go back to work and get in the groove of that and get caught back up today until I got the picture of my number 1 daylight right where I set the day before. But that was kind of the scenario of the hunt. I'd set up on public and then moved, 1 ridge over, and then I had a shooter go right past the ridge I was just on. So it was fun. I said I didn't have any fun out there, but it was fun. But man, it was tough too. So that's the recap, guys. Appreciate you tuning in all the way to the end. Always try to do the right thing. Try to leave a legacy. And the Rutcation podcast is out.